know the name, you see the green bikes, you know the sound of a pro circuit pipe screaming down a start straight. But this story, it was never supposed to happen. The most dominant team in the history of motocross almost didn't make it past its second season, and the entire operation was built from a single, desperate idea in a small motorcycle shop. This isn't a story about just winning. It's a story about survival. It's about a man who turned a personal tragedy into a global powerhouse, a team that redefined what a satellite squad could achieve. How did a company that started by making pipes for Husqvarna become the proving ground for the greatest riders on the planet? How did they survive a sudden divorce from a factory giant? And how did they claw their way to over 300 professional wins? Think about the names: McGrath, Carmichael, Villopoto, Stewart. Each one is a chapter in the story of American motocross. Each one, for a crucial part of their career, was linked by one thing: a phone call from Mitch Payton. What was it about this team that turned talented amateurs into superstars? What was the secret sauce in that Corona, California workshop that could make a production bike beat the factory machines? The answer starts not on a podium, but at the bottom of a steep, dusty hill in the California desert. It starts with a crash that should have ended a career before it even began. Mitch Payton's life changed with a gift from his grandparents. It wasn't a factory ride or a sponsorship deal. It was a humble Honda C90 step-through. That small bike unlocked a passion for two wheels that quickly consumed him.
My parents thought the go-kart probably wasn't the best idea, but maybe a mini bike. It was a Honda 90 step-through that we got to share.
He moved from the streets to the deserts of California, competing in the brutal world of desert racing. This wasn't the packed stadiums of Supercross. This was raw, unpredictable, and dangerous. At 17 years old, Payton was already a hardened racer chasing that next checkered flag. Then, during a race in California City, it all went wrong. His bike launched off a mound he never saw coming. The landing was violent. When the dust settled, the damage was done. The impact damaged the nerve passages along his spine. The doctors delivered a life-altering verdict. He would lose the use of his legs. His racing career was over before he could legally buy a beer. He was 17. Racing was his identity. One crash and it was gone. No warning, no easing into it. Just a doctor in a room telling him he'd never race again. But Mitch Payton wasn't most people. He was determined to stay in the motorcycle world.
We were going to the desert and just going for fun. Got into racing, and then the year that I got hurt, I got number one, and it was done. And then I got out of the hospital. Kind of didn't know what I was going to do, and then that's when I decided the only thing I really liked was motorcycles, so I needed to be involved in it somehow.
How do you do that when you can't even ride? You get closer to the machines than anyone else. You get your hands dirty. In 1978, he bought the very shop that had supported him during his racing days, Anaheim Husqvarna. He wasn't just selling bikes, he was taking them apart, learning their secrets and trying to make them better.
So I looked around everywhere, nobody would take me, and a friend of ours knew this guy, Jack Jory, and he used to race off-road cars. He didn't have a problem with dirt bikes, and said, I'll rent you 2,000 square feet at my place, no problem. So got a brand new building for Anaheim Husky, and off he went. It was badass.
He started designing and manufacturing performance parts, exhaust pipes, suspension components. He was a racer at heart, and he built things for other racers. But he had a problem. He was trying to sell his high-performance parts to other motorcycle shops. Why would a competing shop stock products from a rival dealership? His solution was simple and brilliant. He created Pro Circuit as a separate brand, a dedicated performance company. A friend pushed him to expand beyond Husqvarna. Payton was hesitant. Why fix what wasn't broken? But he took a chance. The first part he built for another brand was an exhaust pipe for a 125 Honda. He figured he might sell a few. The orders flooded in. This was the moment the light bulb went off. The demand for performance was huge, and he had the talent to supply it.
Build aftermarket parts, meaning pipes and silencers for every bike. So whether you have a KTM or a Husky or a Gas or a Yamaha or a Suzuki or a Honda, whatever you have, we're going to have a pipe for it.
His reputation for building killer engines and pipes started to spread through the paddock. It reached the ears of the most respected man in the sport, Roger DeCoster, who was running the factory Honda team. The man himself came to see Payton. He wanted to test these Pro Circuit parts.
I think it was 85. I got the phone call from the man. And Roger, I wanted to ride the pipe. So we go to a place called Poinsettia down by Carlsbad. Roger had this little black book, and he would take notes, But he rode this pipe, and he was like, I'm really impressed with this. This is really good.
DeCoster took one of Payton's pipes and a modified engine for a spin. He came back impressed. The performance was real. Soon after, Pro Circuit was officially supplying engines for the factory Honda race team. Mitch Payton had gone from a crashed desert racer to a vital supplier for the biggest team in the sport. But the biggest twist was yet to come. At the end of 1990, Roger DeCoster made him an offer that would change everything. Honda wanted to create a satellite team, a junior squad to develop new talent, and they wanted Mitch Payton to run it. He said yes. No one knew it yet, but the entire 125 class was about to be turned on its head. The year was 1991. The team was called Team Peak/Pro Circuit/Honda.
I think it's because we're the first team to bring in an outside sponsor into the sport, which is really good. NASCAR, it's kind of basically made them, and we can't take nothing away from the riders. The riders have won, I think, up to date about 6 out of 8 of the Supercross events, which, it says a lot for them. It says a lot for their equipment and the mechanics and all the people in the organization.
It was a mouthful, and it was a complete unknown. Mitch Payton now had a team to manage. He needed riders. One of the young amateurs signed to a factory Honda contract was a kid named Jeremy McGrath. When McGrath got the news that he wasn't going to the main factory team, but to this new satellite squad, he was startled. This wasn't the premier ride he'd dreamed of. The team was brand new. It had no history, no wins. It was a gamble. But Payton had an eye for talent and a way with a motorcycle that was already becoming legendary. He took those Hondas and turned them into weapons. The 1991 Supercross season began, and something incredible happened. In the West region, this new kid, Jeremy McGrath, started winning. On the East Coast, another Pro Circuit rider, Brian Swink, was also dominating.
Brian Swink and Jeremy Buell represent the new blood in motocross in more ways than one. By dominating the AMA Eastern 125 Supercross, Swink and Buell have focused the spotlight on their team and its unusual sponsor, Peak Antifreeze.
When the final races were over, the results were historic. Jeremy McGrath won the Supercross Lights West Championship. Brian Swink won the Supercross Lights East Championship. Their teammates, Jeremy Buell and Steve Lamson, finished on the podium in their respective regions. In its very first year of existence, Mitch Payton's team had won everything. They didn't just win, they announced a new dynasty. The satellite team had beaten the factories at their own game. The motocross world was paying attention now. In 1992, McGrath did it again, defending his West Coast title.
Up front, leader Jeremy McGrath heads into the final lap. He said that number 1 plate got a little heavy last week in Houston, but he's given it a good ride tonight.
The Pro Circuit method was proven. Develop a killer bike, find the best young talent, and let them rip. It seemed like the perfect partnership. Honda had a genius tuner and team manager developing their future stars. Payton had factory support to build his dream. Then, at the peak of this success, Honda pulled the plug. At the end of the 1992 season, they dissolved their support for the team. Just like that, Mitch Payton was out. No factory backing, no budget. The team that had just won 2 championships in 2 years was facing extinction before it had even celebrated its 3rd birthday. This was the ultimate test. The factory that had given him his shot had now left him for dead. The dream was over before it had really begun. Or was it? The offseason was frantic. With Honda gone, Payton was scrambling. He needed a new motorcycle partner. He found one in Kawasaki. But there was a problem. Kawasaki believed in Payton. They could give him bikes, they could give him parts, but they had one thing they couldn't give him: money. Their sponsorship budget for the year was already gone, allocated to other teams. So Mitch Payton had a team, he had bikes, but he had no cash to actually go racing. He was on the verge of shutting down. Salvation came from the most unlikely place imaginable: the toy aisle. The Hot Wheels brand, the makers of those little die-cast cars, came to the rescue. But the story of how they became the title sponsor is pure Mitch Payton. It started with a dispute. Hot Wheels was producing a video game and they wanted to call it Pro Circuit. They were using his trademarked name. Payton didn't sue. He made a demand. He told them they could either pay him royalties for the name or they could sponsor his racing team. They chose the latter. Hot Wheels saved Pro Circuit. The team was reborn as Team Splitfire Pro Circuit Kawasaki. The iconic flame design from the toy cars was now on the shrouds of professional motocross bikes. It was a bizarre, almost surreal partnership, but it worked. The pressure was immense. The team had to prove that their success with Honda wasn't a fluke. They had to prove that they could win on a different color of bike. They did exactly that. Jimmy Gaddis won the 1993 Supercross Lights West Championship. The win streak continued. The team kept collecting Supercross titles through the 90s, 1995, 1996, 1998, 99, 2000. They were the team to beat in stadium racing. But there was a hole in their resume. They were dominant indoors, but an outdoor national motocross championship remained elusive. The rough, brutal, unforgiving tracks of the motocross series were a different beast. That all changed in 1997 with the arrival of a kid from Florida who would become known as the GOAT, Ricky Carmichael. Carmichael joined Pro Circuit as a rookie. He was fast, he was aggressive, and he was raw talent. Payton and his team refined that talent. In his very first professional season, Carmichael did what no other Pro Circuit rider had been able to do consistently. He won the 1997 125 Motocross Championship. He wasn't done. In 1998, Carmichael became the first rider in history to go undefeated in the 125 Supercross class.
Carmichael, though, was told by his mentor, Mitch Payton, don't worry about it. Make all your mistakes in this first rookie year in your 125 season. Then go out and win the title the next year.
A perfect season that proved he was operating on an entirely different level. Those 2 years changed everything. Pro Circuit had now conquered both the brutality of the outdoors and the precision of Supercross, proving their bikes could win anywhere, in any conditions. This period cemented Pro Circuit's reputation. They weren't just a tuning shop with a race team, they were champions. They were the place where young riders went to become superstars. Ricky Carmichael's time at Pro Circuit was the foundation upon which he built his legendary career, and he did it all on Kawasaki, backed by a toy company and a spark plug brand. The team was thriving, but in motorsport, change is the only constant. As the new millennium began, another shift was coming. The title sponsor that had saved them was moving on. The Hot Wheels and Splitfire era was ending. What would come next? The year 2001 marked another transition. Hot Wheels was gone. Splitfire's presence was reduced. The financial burden was back on Payton's shoulders. Kawasaki remained the faithful motorcycle partner, but the team's identity was in flux. And on the track, something strange happened. The wins in Supercross dried up. From 2000 to 2003, the team didn't win a single Supercross championship. For a squad that had defined dominance in the 90s, this was a drought. It wasn't all bad news. Mike Brown delivered a stellar performance to win the 2001 125 Motocross Championship, proving the team's outdoor prowess was no longer a fluke. But in the stadiums, where Pro Circuit had made its name, they were struggling. The sport itself was also undergoing a seismic shift. The two-stroke scream that had defined motocross for decades was being replaced by the thump of four strokes. The AMA rules had changed, and the 254-stroke was now the weapon of choice in the lights class. The two-stroke engines were relatively simple. The new four strokes were complex, with camshafts, valves, and timing chains. It was a whole new world. Mitch Payton was resistant. He loved the simplicity and the power of a two-stroke, but he was also a realist. The future was four strokes. He had to adapt or get left behind. The R&D effort for the 2004 season was immense. Kawasaki released their production KX250F, and Pro Circuit had to turn it into a race winner. They hired new experts. They spent countless hours testing suspension, engine mapping, and reliability.
But in the early days of the four strokes, Mitch was ahead of the curve. He hired a guy that was came from TRD, Toyota Racing Development.
Yeah.
He was in one of the offices there up in the race shop, and he was a big, driving force behind the four-stroke to actually get the development going. That was really where Mitch put a lot in.
It was a complete reset. At the same time, a new title sponsor arrived, one that would become permanently linked to the team's identity, Monster Energy. The team was rebranded as Monster Energy Pro Circuit Kawasaki. The iconic black and green claw marks now adorned the green motorcycles. They entered the 2004 season with a new bike, a new sponsor, and a lot to prove. The doubters were asking if Pro Circuit's time had passed. A rider named Ivan Tedesco had the answer.
He's making a huge push right now. 2 unbelievable runs through the whoops. Ivan Tedesco making it 5 in a row.
Your winner, 125 main event, Ivan Tedesco.
Tedesco climbed aboard the new KX250F and went on a tear. He dominated the Supercross Lights West Series, winning the championship and breaking the team's 3-year winless streak in Supercross. It was a statement victory. It wasn't just a win, it was a declaration that Pro Circuit had not only survived the transition to 4-strokes, they had mastered it.
When did you know you had the best bike?
Man, those were scary days, honestly. Just because those things blew up so much. I mean, that year, first year alone, I probably blew up 50 engines.
Really?
Like not
in like
not exaggerating.
Like testing, practice.
But it was on the. I mean, scary times. But we had power though. We had more power. We did have more power than everybody. And
that 2004 championship was the spark for one of the most dominant runs in the history of the sport. It was the start of 9 consecutive years where a Pro Circuit rider would win a Supercross title. The drought was over. A new empire was being built. The period from 2004 to 2009 was simply unreal. This was Pro Circuit operating at its absolute peak. The combination of Mitch Payton's leadership, the development of the KX250F, and an incredible roster of talent was unbeatable. Look at the results. In 2005, Pro Circuit did the unthinkable. They won every single AMA Supercross and Motocross championship they contested in the lights class. Ivan Tedesco won Supercross West. Grant Langston won Supercross East.
Look, you think you're seeing double? You are. These are both the champions, and you guys look identical out there, I have to say. 125 East Coast champion, 125 West Coast champion under the same tent. You guys just had a little warm-up out there on the track, and I know everybody's looking at each other like, they look identical. What's going on? How exciting is this that you're both here and both champions?
Yeah, it's cool. It's good for us, and it's good for the team, and we both got the number 1s on there, and luckily we have a little bit different riding style, so you can tell us apart.
Tedesco then won the Motocross championship. Langston finished 4th. They won it all. 2 years later, the dynasty flexed again. Ryan Villopoto took the Supercross West title, Ben Townley locked down the East, and Villopoto finished the job outdoors with the Motocross Lights Championship. Another complete sweep. 2 in 3 years. Pure dominance. At the heart of this era was a young rider from Washington who would become the next great superstar, Ryan Villopoto. Villopoto joined Pro Circuit and instantly showcased why he would become the next top superstar. He had that terrifying mix of speed, fitness, and stubborn, break-you-in-the-last 5 minutes grit, and he delivered immediately. In 3 seasons, he went on one of the most dominant runs the class had ever seen. The 2006 Motocross title, the 2007 West Supercross title, and back-to-back Motocross championships in 2007 and 2008. Pure efficiency, no wasted seasons. Before jumping to the 450 class, Villopoto left Pro Circuit with 4 professional championships. The perfect product of the Payton system. Fast, consistent, ruthless, and built for pressure.
Mitch is, for me, he's been a huge, early in my career. He's been as an amateur, and then I was here for 3 years for the Lights team. He's been a huge influence on my career, and even today, now that I'm retired, been retired for a few years, like I have, Mitch has been kind enough to give me a bay in the back by the semi, and I have a bunch of areas and just things that that he helps me out with.
The team was a well-oiled machine. They had the best bikes, they had the best riders, they had the best preparation. Other teams weren't just trying to beat Pro Circuit, they were trying to figure out how they were so far ahead. Mitch Payton had created the ultimate motocross university. Riders graduated from Pro Circuit not just as champions, but as complete racers, ready to take on the world in premier class. The legacy was secure, but in motorsports, no dynasty lasts forever. The wheels of fate were always turning. A period of injury and bad luck was lurking just around the corner, ready to test the team's resilience once again. The Villopoto era had set a bar so high it felt almost untouchable. But Mitch Payton wasn't interested in nostalgia, he cared about one thing: what's next? And in 2010, what came next was a violent reminder that Pro Circuit wasn't just a team, it was a machine. Christophe Pourcel sliced through the East Supercross field with jaw-dropping precision.
Christophe Pourcel is a smart rider. He picks good lines. He is smooth. He's a very good rider.
Jake Weimer owned the West with raw aggression.
with tonight's champion of our Western Regional division. How's it feel?
Amazing. It's hard to put it into words. I've been asked that question a couple times already. It's hard to explain it, but I mean, the best way to explain it is having a childhood dream, literally that being your dream and accomplishing it. It's an amazing feeling.
A double title sweep announced to the sport that the dynasty wasn't fading. It was reloading. And the reload didn't stop. In 2011, Brock Tickle grabbed the West Supercross crown.
Here, he is the West Coast champion. Brock Tickle, man, you earned this one, man. I mean, at one point, you were out of it for a long time, and then all of a sudden, you were back in it.
Yeah, I just dug really deep, and I kept it smart the whole race. I don't know, I wasn't rushing anything. I just let everything come to me, and it happened to work out. So it happened for a reason. I was supposed to do it. So here it is, and West Coast champ. I'm so proud of myself and everybody who's helped me out. It's so amazing.
While Dean Wilson became the new outdoor hammer, winning the motocross championship with a level of consistency that made veterans shake their heads.
Dean Wilson wins the first 250 Moto of the year at Hangtown.
I actually didn't come off that great of a start, and just found my way through the pack really fast and got into the lead, and my bike was awesome.
The winning formula hadn't changed. Payton found talent early, molded them fast, and handed them bikes that terrified the competition. Then 2012 hit, and the streak kept rolling. Blake Baggett, small frame, giant heart, came alive outdoors, charging to a brutal, hard-earned motocross championship.
Blake Baggett wins in the most dramatic fashion possible.
One of the greatest comebacks in the history of the Hangtown Classic.
The championship goes to Blake Baggett, the first ever of his professional motocross career.
3 seasons, 5 titles. Felt like the 90s run all over again. Motocross doesn't let anyone stay on top forever. The next era brought something even Pro Circuit wasn't prepared for. A tidal wave of injuries. Shoulder tears, broken wrists, collarbones, ACLs, entire seasons derailed before they even begun. The roster looked unstoppable on paper, but that paper kept getting shredded on Saturday nights. And while Pro Circuit was fighting to keep riders healthy, the rest of the class was evolving. Star Racing Yamaha was rising fast, stacking young talent, factory resources, and cutting-edge engine tech until they became the new powerhouse everyone had to beat. At the same time, Geico Honda remained a legitimate threat, a veteran program with deep talent, strong budgets, and riders capable of stealing any title they lined up for. Underneath it all, the bikes were changing too. The switch to fuel injection rewrote the rulebook, and the teams who adapted fastest found an edge that Pro Circuit had to chase. From 2013 to 2018, Pro Circuit was still fast, still podium hunting, still dangerous, but the number 1 plate slipped just out of reach. The team wasn't collapsing, it was grinding. Grinding through injuries, grinding through bad luck, grinding through a field that suddenly had more elite riders than ever before. Most teams crack under stretches like this. Mitch Payton didn't crack. He recalibrated. He rebuilt the bikes. He re-engineered the program. He backed his riders through rehab after rehab. The results sheet didn't show the work happening behind the scenes, but the garage did. Every night, every week, every season. And then came Adam Cianciarulo, a rider who'd spent more time battling injuries than celebrating wins. For 6 seasons, his career looked like a tragedy waiting to happen, until 2019, when everything finally clicked. AC came out that summer riding like a different person. No more crashes, no more heartbreak, just clean laps, smart decisions, and the confidence that felt like the Pro Circuit of old. When he locked down the 2019 Motocross Championship, it wasn't just a title, it was proof. The dynasty wasn't dead, it was waiting.
With the second place finish, Adam Cianciarulo has won the 2019 Lucas Oil Pro.
The 2020s didn't bring a soft reset, they brought a storm. The class was deeper, faster, and more ruthless than anything Pro Circuit had ever faced. Star Racing Yamaha had become a superpower. The Lawrence brothers were rewriting the sport at Honda. Every gate drop felt like a war against 2 dynasties at once. And in the middle of that chaos stood Austin Forkner, one of the fastest 250 riders Pro Circuit had in the post-Villopoto era, and the unluckiest. Forkner had championship speed, but the crashes kept coming. ACL tears, broken bones, every time he built momentum, something took him out of the hunt. His Pro Circuit years became a mix of blistering speed and brutal timing, always one step short of what they could have been.
for the main. Look out, and look out for Austin Faulkner. That was a brutal crash.
That was a massive lick that he took.
Pro Circuit needed a spark, and Joe Shimoda delivered one. Quiet, precise, and technically sharp, he became the steady anchor the team had been missing. In 2022, he made history as the first Japanese rider to win an overall in pro motocross, proving Pro Circuit could still develop elite riders in the toughest era the class had ever seen.
Great job by Joe Shimoda. Going to lose out in the overall. He's going to go 4-1, but Joe Shimoda wins the last moto in the 250 class of 2022.
Just thank you so much throughout the year, and hopefully for some better result next year.
His move to Honda in 2023 wasn't a setback. It was proof of how valuable Pro Circuit riders still were on the open market. Meanwhile, the injury curse didn't go away. Seth Hammaker showed flashes of brilliance, but kept getting knocked off the board. Ryder DeFrancesco had the speed, the hype, and the technique, but the crashes piled up before he ever found steady momentum. The grind continued. Behind the scenes, Kawasaki made their biggest move in years, the 2024 KX250 redesign. New chassis, updated engine, and a real investment in giving Pro Circuit the tools to fight back. Then came the riders who proved it was working. Levi Kitchen shocked the industry when he left Star Racing to sign with Pro Circuit, the kind of blue-chip move nobody expected a few years earlier. And in the outdoors, Ty Masterpool delivered a moment Mitch Payton had waited decades for. His first professional overall win at High Point wasn't just a breakthrough, it was Pro Circuit's 300th victory. 300 wins from a team that was never supposed to survive its second season. It was the kind of milestone that didn't just mark history, it reminded the sport who built this class.
He made up 10 seconds of the final 2 laps. He comes up half a bike length short. An amazing charge, but an amazing moment. Mitch Payton, the team owner, 300 wins for his team. He's in tears. He dedicated to that.
The momentum carried into 2025. Seth Hammaker clawed his way to second in the East Supercross Series. Garrett Marchbanks battled to third in motocross. Levi Kitchen grabbed wins. The team spent the year in the fight, not fading, not surviving, but swinging. From a devastating crash in the desert to over 300 professional victories. From a tiny shop in Anaheim to the most influential development program in motocross history. Mitch Payton didn't just build a team, he built a proving ground, a launch pad for champions, and a legacy that refuses to fade. Because if the past 40 years have taught us anything, you never count out Pro Circuit. What's the greatest Pro Circuit era of all time? Drop your pick below, and if you want another great story, here's the next video waiting for you. Thanks for watching, and stay wicked.